Hello, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to my worst books of 2018. So yeah, it's that time of year. I've read pretty much most of my books for the year and I thought it was time to spill the tea. So warnings going into this, I am going to not spoil these books. I'm gonna leave that out of it. Most all of these books I've written a detailed review on Goodreads about why I didn't like them, so I'll link that down below. But also, yeah, I'm gonna share why I didn't like them, and these are my personal views about why I didn't like a book. So if you have problems with it, I mean, if you want to talk about it, that's fine, but keep it classy, yo, because it's gonna be great. So first off, I only had 8 books that I felt qualified for this list, which is really great because so far I'm at 113 books this year, and I only had 8 of them that were like my least favorite. So I'm going to start with 3 that are like honorable mentions because I DNF'd them. So I actually like gave up. Well, you know what DNFing means. I gave up before finishing them. So I feel like they shouldn't count on my list, even though a couple of them I like really dislike them, just because I don't fully know what completely happened at the end. So I'll start with those. So 3 that I DNF. The first one was Lady Thief by A.C. Goggin. And these I have to put pictures up for because most of these books that I didn't like, I've already gotten rid of them. You know, and a few of these, I was only saving them for this video and then I will be unhauling them. But yeah, I read this. This was the second book in the Scarlet trilogy. And I had read Scarlet many years ago. So I think part of the reason why I didn't stay into this is because I read the first one such a long time ago. And I guess I didn't notice the style with which it was written. So, I'll tell you, the main reason I DNF this book is that the author made a writing choice, because it's a first-person novel, and she made a writing choice to have the character's accent be present in the writing. And I don't know how to explain that to you. Back when I did a wrap-up of this book, I talked about it, but she just made words wrong because the character would speak that way. And so, while that may have been a choice to make us hear the protagonist's voice in my head, it drove me freaking bonkers. And I only made it about a third of the way into the book where I was so distracted by the writing style, I couldn't enjoy the story, which is a bummer because this was a gender, Robin Hood wasn't gender flipped, but Maid Marian was also Will Scarlet. So like she was undercover as Will Scarlet and her name is Scarlet. And she was also Maid Marian. So like her name was Marian and she was undercover as Scarlet, if that makes sense. So it had some cool possibilities, but I couldn't handle it. So anyway, that's the first one. The second one I DNF'd was Unbury Carol. I had so much potential for this. The cover is so beautiful, right? It's beautiful, but the way this story was told and just the premise, it was just a mess. And I don't even want to go into Unbury Carol, but it's this girl, this woman, she's married to this man. She has these fits where she seems dead for a certain period of time. And this is something she's always suffered from. And her last friend who knew about it dies. So her husband, who also knows about it, thinks this will be the perfect time to have her die. And like no one will know that it's not really real. So the next time she has an attack, he has her checked by the doctor and the doctor says she's dead. And so then he buries her alive. And a previous love interest of hers hears that she's died and he doesn't believe she's really dead. So he comes to check on her. And anyway, it's a lot of time spent in Carol's head and I just didn't like it. So then the third one I DNF'd, I actually have, and that is Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. I just didn't like the tropes that this was going with. I know this was a lot of people's favorite book the month that it came out. This was my first Owl Crate I ever got, so I was really attached to it and wanted to try to like it, but I just didn't like the main character, and the person who I knew was going to be the love interest, he falls into a trope that I just hate, and it's where, I mean, it was enemies to lovers, but it was a cruel enemy to lovers, like slavery type that. And I have problems with it. And so I thought it was going to be really beautiful, and it might have been if I could have finished it, but I was too annoyed at the start, so I didn't finish it. So DNF that one. All right, so now we're getting into my real list here. So I'll start with the 5th book that I dislike the most. Now, I may have disliked some of these more than those ones, but I finished all of these books that we're going to talk about. I suffered through. So number 5 on my list is Out of Beat by Cassandra Giovanni. This is a contemporary romance, and it reminded me of all the reasons why I don't read contemporary romance very often. This year, being on BookTube, I have taken a chance and read quite a few more than normal, and I've liked a lot of them, so I'm glad I did that. But this one just hit every trope. 18-year-old girl goes on tour with her brother and his band. She has history with one of the bros in the band, and she ends up being their saving grace on the tour and gets them a bunch of interviews, helps them get even better gigs than they would have had. And so this 18-year-old girl is basically their savior, and then she ends up being with the guy that she liked. Yes, I know I just spoiled this one. I'm sorry. It's a contemporary romance. I apologize. I'll put a marker. I hope that, when I edit, I'll put in a marker that I did just spoil the ending for this one. But it was just, I read this for my first readathon I ever did, which was Emojiathon. And that's why I finished it, was because I wanted to read it for the readathon. But I wish I DNF'd it. At least it was short. Like, this was 210 pages, so it wasn't that bad, but didn't like it. Number 4, and this hurts really bad. This is more of an emotional least favorite, and I have a full review for this one, and that is West by Edith Pattou. If you check out my review for that, East, which is the first novel in this duet, I hope she's not writing more of these. I hope not. It's supposed to just be a sequel, so hopefully this is the only one. But I just feel that the author trashed my favorite characters. So that's all I'll say in this, because, I made a whole review about why I don't like it. And so it's hard for me, because if you've been on this channel at all, or you even look back at my videos, East, the review of East was like the 2nd or 3rd video I made. And I love East. I think everyone should read it. And so now I hate that there's a sequel that I don't want people to read, because it just undoes so much of the good that was done in the first book. But again, personal opinion. And I do feel that if you've read East like just now and then you pick this up, it probably won't be an issue. But East was my favorite book since I was 12 years old, which was like 13 years ago. So it was difficult for me. So this had to be on this. You probably knew it if you've been watching me too. Okay, the 3rd, I also don't own anymore. This was Bound to You, and I don't remember the author, so I'll post it up here. I think it's Alyssa Brandon, but we'll show you. This book was a werewolf love story where werewolves have a predestined mate, and when they meet the mate, it like clicks for them, and then they're supposed to get married to that person and go on. Now, I don't have a problem with those kind of love stories. In fact, also, if you've been around my channel, I love a good paranormal romance. I like when there's this tension between two people that just met. But my problem with it is that the girl was way, way more into the guy and was so ready to be married and just completely obsessed with him. And he just ignored her and ignored her and ignored her. And so there was never for me really anything like, why is this girl still harping on this, And then there was just some hinky, there was a few things that I think bordered on assault in certain areas. And yeah, this was also my first rant review I ever made. A few of these have rant reviews, so I'll also link those. But yeah, I didn't like Bound to You, which was a bummer, because when I read the description, I was like, ooh, this could be good, and it wasn't. So number 2 for me, and this was, I haven't been saying what rating I gave these, so whatever. But this was a 2-star read for me. And this was Blood Will Out by Joe Trigari. I was also really excited about this one because I love situational, situations in nature that have thriller elements. I know that's so weird. It's such a weird niche that I have. But I like novels where people are in danger in nature and they have to use nature to save themselves, if that makes sense. Think Hatchet. Think I Am Still Alive by Kate Alice Marshall, that type of thing. So that's what I thought this was gonna be. This girl wakes up in the bottom of a cistern. So like this is her view looking up, and she doesn't remember how she got there. Like she can only remember like 3 days before and back because she has like temporary amnesia from the trauma she's been through. I also like a good thriller now and then. It's not my favorite choice, but in a YA situation, I usually can like it. But this one for me started out really interesting because you're also flashing between, let's see, her name is Ari. You're flashing between her perspective and the person who did this to her, who you don't know who the killer is. And I just think this is a case of being taken advantage of, because in a thriller, I think you need to like give me hints as to who really did it. And I feel like that wasn't a thing. And also the main character, I didn't like her, so I didn't really care if she made it home or not. And that's a problem for me. Some people might like hating the character. Like I know that could be nice, but for me, I wasn't rooting for her. And it also has the trope I hate where something bad happens to you and your parents just won't believe you. And it's one thing if parents are like, you've been through a traumatic event, maybe you don't know what's going on yet, but her parents hardcore didn't listen to her, and it made me really uncomfortable. So anyway, didn't like this. And finally, my number one and my only 1-star read of the year. You could probably guess if you've been around recently. That is Damsel by Alana K. Arnold. And this was like a tragedy to me that this is this low. And again, I'll link the video where I do a more detailed of it because I talk about it in my wrap up for November. It was just so hard for me, and it had a good setup. So the setup of this is in this land, when the prince is about to become king, he has to go and slay a dragon and rescue a damsel. So it's set up as kind of like a fairy tale thing. You get the idea, not just the idea, they explicitly tell you that this is a rite of passage for every prince. If he wants to become a king, this is where he gets his queen from, is he goes and rescues a damsel and saves her. And the damsel, Emery, has no idea where she came from, doesn't know who she was, what happened. She remembers nothing before waking up in the arms of the prince. Emery is the prince's name. Her name is Amma. Sorry. Emery is the prince's name. And so cool setup. I thought it was intriguing. And then it turned into a horror show. And not a horror show as in there was horror. It just was a trash fire for me. And again, I have a more detailed review on my Goodreads about why. This has all the trigger warnings. It has trigger warnings for assault, sexual assault, abuse, gaslighting, females not looking out for other females, men being assholes, and then the big one, bestiality. And I won't explain how that happens, but it's a thing. And I just think that if this story wanted to be told, because I've heard people's defense of it, I've seen some very intelligent defense of it, so I understand why some people think it's good. I think the warnings need to be on the book. And I think this needs to be for more than, what does this one say it's for? I don't think this should be a YA. Like one of my other booktubers that I love talking with, she's a librarian or a teacher, and she puts her books in her library. And I told her, I was like, make sure you read this book before you put it in your library for 8th to 10th graders. And she's like, why? And I told her the trigger warnings, and she's like, oh my God, thank you. Because I would have just put this in my library and not looked at it. And I just think there's some things in here that until you're over 18, you need the right context to read them. So I don't know, this book, it's gorgeous. I wanted to love it. It was a cover buy, so I didn't read anyone else's review. I didn't look up anything about it. And it was just so disturbing to me. I couldn't handle it. So these were my least favorite reads of 2018. All in all, I mean, there was only the one that I hated. All of these were just, they didn't hold up to some of the great reads I had. So I'm super excited. Please join me. Hopefully my next video will be my favorite reads of the year, which is a much longer list and will be so exciting because I had one of the best reading years of my life. I'm so happy, but I figured I'd get this one out of the way. And yeah, thank you for stopping by. I make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So until then, please check out some new videos right now. Bye.